everyone, welcome back. So today I thought I would talk to you about my first trimester. So obviously I'm quite a way through my pregnancy now. It seems to be going crazy quickly. We are currently 17 weeks plus 4 days and I honestly don't know where the time is going. I feel like, you know, one of those Sims, you know when you used to play Sims when you were younger and they would get pregnant and you'd have about 2 days where they would have literally just have time to buy the cot and then the baby was here. That is how I feel like this pregnancy is going. I honestly don't know where the time's going. So I thought I would film today. I planned on filming this video in the midst of my first trimester. I was going to do like a 0 to 4 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks and so on. But not only did I think that I would be bombarding you with so many videos, I also was in no state midway through my first trimester to film a video. I did struggle a little bit, but I will talk more about that as we get going. So I've watched so many of these. I watched a lot of these kind of videos when I was newly pregnant. I really liked Charlotte Louise Taylor's, Mrs. Meldrum's. I watched a lot of Emily Norris's videos. I watched Hannah Gale. She did a pregnancy vlog, an early pregnancy vlog, and then just random people that I would kind of come across, but they're my main 4. I did make quite a few notes in the beginning of my first trimester, in the first few weeks, and then when it hit the kind of 8 to 11, 12 week mark, I struggled a lot. So the notes got less and less, but obviously I can remember how I felt. So it's all a little bit higgledy-piggledy. I've not kind of put this in any order. I'm just going to kind of go through things as I read it off this sheet and tell you things that I think you might find interesting and try not to make this video too long. So I did talk a little bit about this in my video where I announced that we were pregnant, and basically I didn't really feel very pregnant when we found out we were pregnant. I didn't really have many symptoms. I knew that people do get symptoms quite early on and that there are signs to look out for and stuff, but I didn't really have anything. And then when we found out, when I looked back at that week, the first week, some things did make a little bit more sense. I was quite grumpy, as in like how I would get before my period would start. Always like a crazy person the week before my period, and that is how I was. I was very, very grumpy. I had quite low mood and I was being a little bit picky with what I was eating. Tommy and I went out for lunch one day and I just didn't want anything. I ended up having half a bowl of soup, and that they were like really the only kind of 2 things, the first 2 very early signs when I look back now that I can think of. The first major symptom for me in that first trimester was having a sniffly nose. I was full up with a cold for a good few weeks. I did Google it because I just felt like it just wasn't normal, that the cold symptoms that I was having, I just felt like it just wasn't me. I'd never ever experienced anything like it. And apparently, because of all the extra bodily fluids that your body is producing, having kind of like a stuffy nose and having cold-like symptoms is a very, very early on pregnancy symptom, which is all kind of cleared up now, thankfully. I fully expect things to creep up throughout the whole duration of this pregnancy, but for now, no cold. She says, sniffing. So in terms of how I was feeling, really, apart from the cold, I just wanted to graze all day. I wasn't particularly hungry, but I just felt like I just needed to constantly be eating something. Then again, I was really off my food. So that was probably the main thing for me throughout that first trimester, was being off food. And right at the start, all I wanted to eat was toast, mashed potato, whether it was with peas and gravy or beans, and then a little bit of bacon sometimes if I felt I could stomach that, and ice pops. That's all I wanted to eat. I did try and force myself to have a little bit of pasta with some kind of nutrition in it, like tuna and sweet corn or something like that, and soup, minestrone soup. That was literally all I lived on for those first 12 weeks. This is a symptom really that hasn't gone away, that I've just been really, really off my food and haven't known what I've wanted until it's right there in front of me in that moment in time. So I have been a little bit of a nightmare when it's come to going to eat out and things like that, because I'm just so indecisive, and just being really off food, and just some things that I used to just love chocolate, and I just haven't recently. That's kind of come back a little bit, but I just have, in that first trimester, I didn't want to go anywhere near chocolate, and all I could eat that was sweet were ginger nuts, and the only reason I ate them was because they would kind of keep that nausea at bay. So I was actually really lucky, and in my first trimester, and I'm not going to spoil the second for you, but in my first trimester I wasn't actually sick once. There were a few times where I came close and I felt very nauseous throughout the whole period of time, but I wasn't actually sick. And in the morning when I would wake up in those first 12 weeks, I felt like even just to get out of bed I needed to eat a ginger nut, because I felt so sick first thing in the morning, and I would literally have 1 or 2 ginger nuts, and then that would kind of keep that sickness at bay until I came down. Then I could just do my usual morning routine where I'd put a wash on, feed the dogs, and then get my breakfast. So they were a godsend, those ginger nuts. And actually a really sweet story for Mother's Day, I was probably a couple of months into the pregnancy at this stage, and Tommy, I think I was just almost 12 weeks, Tommy bought me, he knew that he bought me some daffodils a couple of weeks before, and I had to ask him to get rid of them because the smell was so strong. And bless him, for Mother's Day he bought me a whole massive thing of ginger nuts, like 10 packets of ginger nuts, and wrapped them up like a bouquet of flowers. So I thought that was really sweet, and I got through quite a few packets. You hear so many things about pregnancy, and obviously everybody's is so different, and there are a lot of pregnancies that occur, and you hear so many stories, and you just don't think that half of the things, you can't imagine how they'll be. And honestly, the strong smells, I've never known anything like it. In the morning, I had to ask Tom not to spray his aftershave or do his hair in the bathroom next to our bedroom, and to do it downstairs because I could smell it so strongly. Things like the flowers, again, were just so strong, and I just couldn't bear them in the house. I couldn't use any candles. I had to get rid of all of our plug-in air fresheners. Tom had to start feeding the dogs because the smell of the dog meat. It was just really random things, but it definitely was a symptom for me. I also felt very bloated in those first few weeks. So probably from about 5 weeks onwards, I would say. I didn't really have much of a bump very early on, which is why I haven't got a picture or a clip to show you in this video of what my bump looked like, because there was really nothing there. It was just a little bit firm, a little bit rounder, but I felt very bloated. So from about week 7 or 8, I was out of my jeans. I was just wearing leggings and dresses and tights, and not necessarily because I had a bump, but because I just felt so bloated, and everything that I was wearing just made me feel like I couldn't breathe. Also, I felt very anxious and worried right at the start, which I think is completely normal. I think it's just something that comes with pregnancy. Obviously, it's so strange that all of a sudden it just kind of happens, and you find out that you've got a positive test and that something's growing inside you, but at the start it's the size of a poppy seed, and it's just so hard to believe that this tiny thing that's inside you is making you feel all of these symptoms and feelings and emotions, and yet you really don't have much control over protecting it. Obviously you have to make sure you're trying to eat the right foods, and I mean, at the start I had to speak to my midwife because I was so concerned about my diet, because I just was eating the beigest foods that mustn't have had many nutrients in whatsoever. I was living off ice pops, and she just said, just get down whatever you can get down and keep down. And obviously that's got much better now. I'm back to kind of normal eating, but that'll be in the next video. One thing that I have had right from the start up until I think will go on and probably for the rest of my life while I'm bringing this baby up, has been how tired I've felt. The exhaustion is like nothing I've ever experienced before. I've never been one to kind of nap in the afternoon or hit 4 o'clock and just, that's it. I don't have anything else to give. Baby brain, I feel, is a real symptom, but a lot of it is brought on because of how tired you are. Experienced jet lag. I've had days where I've had a few hours sleep, but nothing has been quite like the tiredness that I've felt during pregnancy. It's really difficult to explain. I think it's just because your body is obviously working so hard to make sure that baby has everything that I now can say he needs, and it just takes its toll. And obviously if you're not eating properly, your energy levels are just a little bit iffy squiffy, so it all goes hand in hand. The other two things that I wanted to mention was constipation. I had that pretty badly early on. It's kind of been an issue for me since surgery anyway, and I have to really make sure that I eat the right foods and drink enough so that I can go to the toilet regularly. But obviously I wasn't eating the right foods right at the start, so that really had kind of a bit of an effect on me and did make me feel really poorly, because obviously it's quite uncomfortable when you can't go to the toilet basically. So it's not really a nice one, but it's just something that I wanted to mention because it's something to look out for, because I think it is quite common. And the last symptom that I want to talk about is how big your nipples and your boobs get so quickly. Like, you have around 30, what would you say, 36 to 40 weeks to grow a baby, and in the first 8 weeks your boobs, I would say I went up maybe 2 cup sizes, and my nipples are huge, like huge. It's crazy ridiculous. You just don't think it's gonna happen that soon, but it really did. That was really the first thing that I was like, you know, when you're like looking at your body and you're looking at for changes and you're trying to see if you've got any extra stretch marks or if that bump has grown. I would look down and all I would be able to see were these nipples, and I mean always stick out, they're never in. A lot more veiny. I have gone back into the bras that I was wearing before I had my surgery, so which probably were about 2 cup sizes bigger than what I was before pregnancy, and obviously they're only going to get bigger. I think in another week or so I'm gonna have to start wearing some bigger bras, or even get like a maternity bra, because the ones that I'm in now feeling a bit snug. I've got like 2 that are comfortable, and then apart from that, that's it. So yeah, that's something to look out for, and something that definitely took me by surprise. As much as I go on about how poorly I felt and things that were weird and symptoms that I noticed and things like that, obviously throughout I was absolutely overjoyed. In those the first few weeks, towards the end, obviously we were telling our family members, we told some friends, and it was just a really happy time. And then obviously telling all of you guys as well. I really want to embrace this pregnancy, and as hard as some of the days were in the first few stages, in the first trimester, I would always just have in the back of the mind how I would literally go through anything if it meant that I was going to grow a healthy, happy baby that would be here in October, that I will be able to meet and just have by my side then forevermore. And it makes it all worth it. You just have to remind yourself of that, and that it passes. That's all I kept thinking, is this will pass, it's not going to be forever. I'm sure my second trimester update will have lots of new things in there. There's already a couple of things that I've noted today that weren't there, but aren't part of this video. But as I say, I'm 17 weeks today, so I'm gonna film that video quite soon, and get some bump shots and things like that, so that you all can see how bump is growing. So I really hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching, and please do subscribe if you did enjoy.